from the first moment I met Patrice, it was just like, oh my God, who is this? I was like really taken with her just immediately, as are most people, I think. And just always had it in the back of my head that like, oh man, she is amazing. It would be cool to do something with her at some point. I don't know what that is. But that was something that was always kind of in the back of my mind. But it took, about 20 some years to figure out, what would make sense to do together. So the film is primarily a verite documentary, meaning that it's observational. We're kind of embedding with Patrice and Gary in their lives and kind of seeing what happens. But there's a whole storyline that's interwoven throughout the film that has to do with Patrice's backstory. And so that the audience can understand everything that she went through in her life to essentially get to the place where she is when we meet her at the beginning of the film.
Mhm.
And to kind of animate that backstory, we kind of tell that part of her life through these recreation scenes, and we do it as if it was a school play, basically. And all of the sets and environments are these like kind of big two-dimensional flats, and they were all designed by Patrice. And she's an artist, and her artwork is like just a hallmark of like who she is. And so we were looking for a way to kind of an organic way to get her artwork into the film in a way that didn't feel forced, and in trying to figure out how to visualize these stories. uh, Patrice had already been working on a graphic novel about her life, and so she was already doing all these drawings from different periods of her life. And so the idea was like, oh, what if she draws the world of the recreations, which then made us think about like flat backgrounds, which then made us think about play. And then the idea, we're in trying to figure out like, well, who plays Patrice like in the background, is or in the recreations, is it her, is it somebody else, that she's all these different ages, do we need to cast like kids to play her? And at some point we were like, that's just never going to work. It's just got to be her. She's the only one who can do her. So she's gonna play her no matter what age she is in the recreations. And then we're like, okay, if we're kind of breaking that rule, then what's the rest of the world like? And then we kind of got the idea that like, oh, then let's go the other way. The rest of the worlds will be kids. So all of the other parts are played by kids. And that kind of gave us the ability to kind of play with the kind of emotional tenor of some of the subject matter that we were going to be dealing with, because some of it is really dark. And so by using kids, it allowed us to kind of like, have a little bit more of a way to kind of do things a little more tongue in cheek, or to kind of have a little bit more control over like how dark are we really going to bring the audience in any given moment. But at the same time, we also had this great ability to kind of juxtapose the innocence of a child up next to kind of like the inhumanity of the system, which in some ways was like made things much more powerful in that way. So it kind of gave us this great device. And also partly it was inspired by the fact that Patrice used to have a children's public access television show when she was younger, and she absolutely loves being around kids. And it just seemed like, the most Patrice way to do something like this. So it kind of all came together like that. I wasn't even sure it was going to be a documentary. We were going back and forth about a bunch of ideas, and we are just like, what's going on in your life? What would you want to do? And we were all just kind of talking on and off for a little while. And then during this period where we were trying to figure it out, Gary proposed. And we were like, oh, this might be something. And but at that moment, I gotta say, we didn't understand that if you're disabled in this country and you collect benefits, then you can't get married without losing your benefits. And as soon as we realized that that was the case, we were just like, oh, okay, well, we have to go forward with this. Clearly, this story is more important than the two of you. This is a much needed story. And so we just said, okay, we're just gonna start filming, and then we'll just figure it out as we go. But that was essentially how it went down. So that category specifically is about documentary films that kind of push the form of documentary filmmaking into like new creative heights, I guess. So that's the gist. And I think it's supposed to be usually in service of some larger like social issue. So it's
Okay.
kind of like those two, which are, I guess, two of the hallmarks of documentary usually. So I guess these are for films that, just really push the creative form in service of of a social justice issue in a new way. I mean, it was very exciting. I mean, I gotta say, I had actually totally forgotten that the nominations were being announced on that day. They had told us maybe a week or two prior to like, hey, be ready to check on this day. And I was on this other shoot for this other project, and we were filming in this place with no air conditioning, and there was all this stuff going on that I was trying to keep track of. And I just got a text from one of our producers on Patrice that just said, "Whoa." And I just back, is everything okay? Like, what happened? Is something wrong? And she was like, did you see? And I was like, see what? And then it's just like, oh, this is great news. And the best part about it was being able to tell Patrice and Gary and just, you know, hearing their heads explode over the phone as I told them what had happened. So yeah, everybody was very excited. The film premiered at the Toronto Film Festival, and there was a lot of press around it. And then right after the film went live on Hulu, like 24 hours later, the Social Security Administration put out a statement on the film that basically said, like, hey, to the makers of Patrice the movie and to Patrice Jeter herself, I'm paraphrasing, but they basically said, we get it. Like, we understand that we have some outdated rules that need to change. However, we'd like to remind everybody that we don't make the rules. We just enforce them. And then it's Congress that makes the rules. But we stand by ready to assist Congress as soon as they're ready to make a change, which was huge because
Yeah.
never admitted that there was any issue. They had never put any pressure, even polite pressure, on Congress. So that felt like a huge win right out of the gate. And coincidentally, that happened to go out publicly like a day or two before we were scheduled to be on The View. And so Patrice and I got to talk about it in front of like a live national audience, which then prompted Whoopi Goldberg to be like, we should write President Biden. We should get him to push this while he's still in office. Patrice was invited to a dinner at the White House and actually sat next to President Biden at the time and was given time at the dinner to like get up and speak about the issue. That same day he was on C-SPAN, he name checks her and mentions the issue, which is the first time any president has ever done that.
Wow.
And we were talking to a lot of the like advocates and folks in DC, and we are like, oh my God, this is happening so fast. Like, we might actually able to get this to happen. Like, we might actually get to change the legislation. And then the election happened in November. And then that all went out the window. Absolutely all went out the window. Someone who was like pretty instrumental to me in filmmaking, and at least in the South Jersey area, was my one of my high school teachers at the time, Mr. David Nastasi, who, as part of an English class, taught us like film analysis. And that was the first time that I really understood that film was an art form. And I understood all of everything that's happening in a film is a choice. And there's a reason for the choice. And why are you making this choice? And every little thing has the ability to help tell the story. What color is that wall? Why are you inside? Why are you outside? What time of day is it? What's the lighting? What are the characters wearing? Is this a close-up? Is this a wide shot? Whatever, just the whole grammar of film. And that was really a turning point for me. That just got me like really excited about, what film is and what it could be, what you could do with it. And it was how I learned how to like look at films as works of art, and definitely got me really excited about it. Yeah, that was an incredible class, and he was an amazingly supportive teacher, who I give a lot of credit.